An absolute legend. I saw him as a freshman playing a championship game against UNLV. I was a sports reporter in Vegas, and Grant Hill was guarding Stacey Augmon. And it was Stacey Augmon's worst game as a college basketball player. So Grant and the Dukies won it that year. How vividly do you remember that game? Because you played so many.
I do remember that game. I remember the anticipation leading up to it. Vegas, UNLV was undefeated, so dominant that season, returning, pretty much everybody from the championship team the year before. But what I remember the most was that I had a horrible haircut and like the absolute worst time to have a bad hair day or a bad hair weekend. And then we go and win, which is a great thing. But I have to relive every time I see that game or a highlight from that Final Four, or even if I think about that Final Four, I think about the bad haircut, which I talk about getting in my book. It's a hilarious story that I detail exactly what happened with my bad haircut.
By the way, you also tell a story, and I want you to take your time and share it with the audience. You were part of a handful of college players who were invited to beautiful La Jolla, California, about 2 hours south of here in L.A., and you were, as the dream team was getting put together, they got you guys and said, hey, why don't you go down there and practice against Michael and all these guys? Tell the story.
Yes, you said it best. Me, along with 7 other college players, Bobby Hurley, Chris Webber, Penny Hardaway, Jamal Mashburn, to name a few, we were brought in as the sacrificial lambs to help prepare the Olympic Dream Team in '92. We were in La Jolla. And that first day, I remember Roy Williams, who was then at Kansas, was our coach. And they wanted us to come out, play fast, shoot a lot of three-pointers, and really give them a sense of what they'll face on international play. And Allen Houston caught fire. I was guarding Michael Jordan out the gate, and we beat them the first day. We were the only team to beat the greatest team ever assembled. And it was just it was one of the highlights of my career. And now they came back and beat us the next 3 days. We couldn't get the ball over half court. But that first day, we won.
I think you guarded Michael Jordan, didn't you?
I did. I guarded Michael. It's funny. The first time I come out, I'm trying to deny him the ball. And Michael says, Dookie, I can get the ball whenever I want and do what I want with it. And, he was probably right.
He probably was. You had this a great NBA career, and you're one of those guys that would, if you came out today, you'd be able to adapt. You can score in transition. You're long. You're agile. You can defend multi-positions. The game has gotten more international. It's never been more skilled. Do you love the NBA game today? Because I think it's that. People can complain about the NBA. It's too power star driven. I look at it and I think it's the most skilled league, period, including football in the world.
It is. The game has evolved, and certainly, rules have changed, and you can talk about maybe the physicality not being, what it was years ago, but the skill level and the talent and the amount of work that these players put into perfecting their craft, it's really out of this world. You think about the MVP race this year. You think about Jokic. You think about Embiid. You think about Antetokounmpo, just to name 3. First of all, 3 guys that have really helped sort of revolutionize what big guys can do in the NBA. They're 3 guys that are all born in foreign countries. So it speaks to the globalization of the sport and how the sport, because of that 92 team and the success that Dream Team had, how they've been able to grow the sport all over the world. But the game is so much fun, the talent, the skill level. And I find these playoffs have been entertaining. I've enjoyed watching them and also broadcasting and calling them as well.
Doc Rivers, Steve Kerr, Coach K. Did you ever envision, I covered Steve in Portland, did you ever envision Steve Kerr being this great of a coach? He was a terrific broadcaster, great shooter. He was an executive for a while. Did you ever envision him having this aptitude as a coach?
No. I worked with Steve in Phoenix. He was the general manager those years for 3 years that I was there in Phoenix. And he had great people skills, and he knew how to say the right thing. His communication skills were incredible. Obviously, great basketball intellect. But I never thought he had any desire to be a coach, and let alone have this Hall of Fame coaching career that he's had, just within 10 years in his coaching career. I used to joke with him, everybody back in the 90s wanted to be like Mike, but in retirement, we all want to be like Steve, and he's been a broadcaster, he's been an owner, he's been a GM, he's been a coach. He seems to have done everything well. And he's one of the few people, think about it. He has been in a finals either as a player or as a coach now in 4 decades. He was there in the 90s with the Bulls, in the early 2000s as a player with the Spurs. Of course, from 2010 to 2020, the great run in 15, 17, and 18 with the Warriors, and then now. And so his longevity, his success, his intellect, that's why I tapped him to be the head coach for USA Basketball and the men's national team for the World Cup next summer and the Olympics in 2024.
So we're looking at the finals. My takeaway on the finals is pretty simple, is that Boston's just getting more production both ends of the floor from both players. And people are saying Draymond's not playing well. Well, either is Jordan Poole, either is Klay Thompson. And the reality is, outside of Steph Curry, when you face a great defense, you could be a quarterback, you could be a basketball player. There's a handful of all-time greats. Michael Jordan was great against everybody. But a great defense takes B-plus guys and shrinks them. And I don't see a way out for Golden State. Everybody likes the Warriors tonight, and I think the Celtics have more good players in their prime athletically, and I think the young Warriors aren't quite there yet. Kuminga, Moody, they're just not ready for the moment. I hate to say the series is over, but could I pick Golden State? But I just think they got more players in their prime and more productive guys that can come off the bench. Your thoughts on what you're watching?
Well, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. We look at the season that Golden State had. We look at Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and we're like, oh, they've been there before. They're the favorites. But first of all, there's a lot of guys on that team who have not been there and are going through this for the first time. It's this Boston team is really incredible. It's a beautiful story this year, sort of where they were, the struggles, they figured it out, the way they've knocked out some really good teams in the Eastern Conference. They play defense, they're long, they're physical, and they play well together. And so I don't know who wins tonight, but I will say that whoever wins tonight will win the series. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. If Boston wins and they go up 3-1, then yes, they've done well on the road. They can easily win on the road in games 5 or game 7 if need be. So, and then Golden State, if they can win tonight, I think they win it out. And so that's a bold prediction, but I'm standing by that, and we'll see if it plays out that way.
What year did you retire?
2013.
You retired. So so let me ask you. LeBron had already been in the league at the end of your career, right?
Right.
Okay. You guarded Jordan. You probably got matched up with LeBron. I'm not going to ask who's better. But go to Jordan, go to LeBron. Did you defend him differently? Were you blown away by one of their assets differently? Just kind of juxtapose their talents, and what was it like?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually guard Jordan a lot. I guarded Pippen. I mean, he and I were matched up a tremendous amount, although I did at times switch out on Jordan. At that point in his career, he was so efficient, and his footwork, his skill, his fundamentals, he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it was always a good shot. It was high percentage. He was constantly attacking you on both ends of the floor. LeBron was a little bit different. LeBron didn't like to post up as much at that point. He liked to have the ball at the top. LeBron would beat you. He was just as dangerous with the pass as he was, looking to score. And then one of the things I would try to do with LeBron is not let him get a full head of steam in transition.
That's right.
because he's so dangerous. So when we would shoot the ball on offense, instead of going to the glass, I would just try to get attached to LeBron so he doesn't get a rebound and just, run out. And once he gets in the open court, he's impossible to stop. So, different strategies in terms of how you approach each guy, but certainly two of the best to ever do it, if not the best to ever do it.
By the way, who was? I'll throw this at you. He's got a new autobiography. It's called Game, an autobiography. It just got released. I just got it in my office yesterday, and I'm going to devour it this weekend. Give me. I like asking athletes this. Give me a guy I wouldn't suspect. You were a 7-time All-Star Hall of Famer. The most underrated player you ever played that maybe wasn't an All-Star, but when you knew you were flying to that city, you were like, "Hey, this guy's a headache."
Oh, man. For me, going back to my Detroit days when I was at that level as an all-star, a guy that really, and he may have been an all-star once or twice, but a guy that was just a load was Jamal Mashburn.
Oh, yeah.
And Jamal Mashburn, he scored 50 in the league back when teams were only scoring 80 points in the 90s. But he was physical. He was strong. He could shoot. He could post up. He had good handles. He could flat out play, and he was difficult to guard and to defend, and was an underrated defender as well.
Yeah, he's gone on to a very lucrative post basketball career. Very sharp guy, Jamal Mashburn, a very successful businessman, I do believe. And he was a great high schooler. He went to Kentucky. He was a Kentucky Wildcat. Yep. Grant Hill, Hall of Famer. The book, Game, an autobiography. I guarantee you the stories are going to be fantastic. Duke, Coach K, the NBA, the Jordan stories and beyond. Grant, an absolute pleasure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.